So it occurs to me that the mind might get really used to being in a high mind state. And so it's going to keep getting its mind blown um, with inspirations. So the deeper that we go down this rabbit hole kind of thing, um, it's going to be harder for mind to stay within an ego state. So I think that part of the process that seems so scary and risky is that we are spending less time in the ego mind state and more time in another mind state. And when I hear back in the language of, commonly spoken understanding in English, it does sound bonkers. But when I'm showing it to the kind of like labels and diagrams that I've started to create, and you see the patterns forming, and you see what I'm referring to as a process, then the waypoint markers that we're hitting along this journey, along this diary, along this journey, along this transformation of myself coming outside of myself, this whole story of resource, where I'm trying to return to source. And that's all I know. I don't know anything else. I don't know what source is. I don't know where it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know how, when, why. But it seems like I am apparently on this journey to return to whatever source is. And it's not a physical return. I don't want to annihilate myself. It's a journey. It's a curiosity. It's as if a child is reaching for their parent. Imagine how a foster child or an adopted child would feel. They have to fight the urge of their life just being about returning to source, getting to know their parents, getting to know where they're from and who they are. It's so important to our identity, to our ego, to actually find out who we are. And that journey has been awoken and inspired in countless people's lives, and it's a growing amount. And it's this area of pursuit, of introspection, of healing, of therapy, of self-discovery. It's within the realm of that journey that ultimately has led me to every point that's happening now and now, where an idea comes through my mind in a high mind state, and I'm drawing these diagrams, and I keep finding myself rambling on, and it's not nonsensical. It's perfectly sensical. So I'm trying my best to show you, and if it all seems, I don't know, like too perfect, too wildly accurate, then that's scary. And it is still scary to me, because I'm seemingly fracturing my sense of self and my psyche in order to actually accept and understand whatever these inspired thoughts are saying. Because they just, they know more. I suppose it's like, if I was to be religious, and if I was to believe in a God, then it would be way easier for me to rationalize and explain. Oh yeah, I'm listening to voices of guidance and self-correction inside myself. And it's telling me all sorts of things that I can't possibly have thought of myself, this lowly ego can't possibly be so genius smart to come up with such a fundamental truth that everyone else has potentially missed. Or maybe we haven't. Maybe we just haven't communicated it in a unified way. What if we're all just creating and trying to speak our own languages, our own descriptions and explanations of what's going on? Philosophers were able to have so much space, time, and freedom to explore. I mean, they literally had all the food they could eat, all the love they could get, all the wisdom that they could have access to. And they had all the time in the world to just wander and ponder, figuratively and literally, with their bodies physically and with their minds mentally. So you've got to create that space of resource. And it's, I know on an audio form it's going to be difficult to keep up with the spelling of it. When I say resource right now, do I mean it as R-E embarrassing S-O-U-C-E, or is it with the branding with the capital R, lowercase e, and then a dot, and then whatever the name is, source, as a name? You get it. Right, let me pause and circle back. Side note, this is also why I would love to get my own place. It would make me feel a lot more comfortable making these voice notes, because I don't want to be disturbing anyone, and I'm concerned that if anyone was to hear this, they would judge me. And I'm constantly battling with my own self-consciousness in this process. And so it makes me very disheartened and demotivated when I notice that I am always working within the restrictions of my ego. And the more that I trust in this diagram and this way of pattern recognition within myself, these forms of understanding that I've labeled as the core aspects, this is so critical, I think. If it's all true, if it's all correct, if it's all observable too by anyone who chooses to, then yeah, it's in dangerous territory. It's in really, really unknown territory. And I can sense an emergence of paranoia in terms of I am risk assessing, as everyone always is risk assessing, and that risk is definitely factoring in my ego, working within the restrictions of where I find comfortable behavior or acceptable behavior in society. So there's various layers of comfort, right? But you always keep hitting a restriction of what you can think, what you can do, what you can say within society. But then in your inner experience, you give yourself a lot more allowance in your thoughts. Your thoughts can go wherever they please, because that's mind. The mind is forever fascinated, and the mind is forever trying to understand things, right? It's trying to learn. The freedom of speech we give to people and the freedom of thought we should give to ourselves, which most people do. We're not restricted in that way. And so the freedom of mind is always coming up against restrictions. And those restrictions are of ego in this case. So if the mind does have any power to overrule, make decisions for itself, then it's as if mind can be seen as ego's friend this whole time. Ego and mind working together, but mind has always been seen as like that very mild-mannered, keeps himself introverted nerd, right? Really intelligent, really misunderstood and underappreciated, underacknowledged, but mind is constantly there helping, because it just understands everything. It puts things together and it sees patterns, and it tries to tell you. It tries to tell ego. It tries to tell whoever is listening. But that's kind of what mind has been like. So mind is kind of like body in a way that, as far as I recognize them to be characteristically, mind and body are not prime as ego and grace are, because they don't seem to show that often the trait of dominance, the trait of taking over your awareness, your reality, your self. And why? Myself. Mind and body seem to just tag along. They don't have a desire to take center stage. Whereas the other three are like siblings, and they are able to come take center stage, come take control. So the reason I bring that up is because so far the story has been mostly from ego's perspective, and now allowing Grace's perspective to come through more and more, and her character I'm allowing to come through more and more, and start enacting and start like putting more of a voice instead of just thoughts, trying to put more of as if I'm writing a character in a story. Let's just say this is what I'm doing. I'm writing a story and I'm writing characters, and I'm not a writer. I've never considered any of this ever. Not even telling stories. We tell each other little anecdotes throughout the day, but no one's a good storyteller unless you really learn how. So yeah, it's like I'm writing a script apparently, and these characters I'm making up that correlate to what I'm talking about. I need someone to rein me in, or I should just get used to pausing to recollect. You can tell that's high mind. High took over and goes off on one. Now, this is about mind. If mind has a power to make decisions, make preferences, and take over, then there's a risk that mind will prefer to be in a high mind state. I mean, it will still try and take control to set a boundary so that, we have balance, that mind can also be in a mind high state rather than grace always high, being dominant all the time. So if that were to happen, then you'd have to let go of ego for a bit. You know, you'd have to step away. So it's whether mind makes the decision through will and enacts an override, and mind decides, oh, my override is I prefer to be in a high mind state right now. I want to learn more. I want to know more. Hi, please, let's work together. Let's figure things out. Whisper in my ear all your secrets. And this dynamic is starting to shape. I mean, it's been shaping underneath me for a while, I think. But in the perspective of ego, the acknowledgement of this might sound frightening, because it might mean certain danger zones that we usually try to avoid at all costs. But yet, this is another unexplored limitation. And the journey seems to be leading me to risk making that leap of faith, which people do with other belief systems. I just don't want to be associated as being in the area of being a cult, or being insane, or have just like gone la-la, because this is all quite overwhelming. Yes. It's all going to get really real. And if I'm not congruent and eat what I'm also producing, and really believe in it fully, because if ego and the limitations of ego just won't let go and it's holding back, that's what's been happening. It's that ego's just too scared, and there's good reason, because society has made ego really scared and put so many limitations everywhere. I mean, ego's done that for himself. That's what someone scared does. They put up barriers. And so the collective ego can be seen as laws and rules and a spectrum of indication that someone may be deemed worthy of respect or not worthy of respect, worthy of an ear to listen or no time at all, to be seen or not to be seen. It's very important to be seen and to be heard and to be understood and to be loved and all of this stuff. And it may sound like I've had lack of that, because why else would I be thinking this way or talking this way? It's not because of that. I've been very fulfilled, but I'm reminding myself here and whoever's listening in that this is uncharted territory. I'm speaking in real time. I feel like I keep having to explain myself, justify, rationalize, break it down for people, because I fear so much that they don't understand. Because if they did, why would they not follow? Why would they not see the logic behind these realizations that's actually unfolding in real time? Because there's no other time. So if you have a thought that wants to manifest, then I suggest you start making a voice note. That's the path of resistance for me. But before technology became so entrenched in my life, when I was much younger, I picked up a notepad and I just scribbled in there. And so if I was in moments like a high mind, a high ego, in a higher state, a high body, or not even necessarily, you could just be in a really trapped state. And when you're in just one state most of the time, or just a few states most of the time, it can be a lonely place. And if you're in many states at any given time, and you're doing a lot, and you're rushing around, and you're people pleasing, and you're having to sort all your shit out, and you're deciding, I'm going to do it all at once, and I'm going to go full at it, and, prove to myself I can do it. That, you're channeling so much power from will. It's unbelievable. And kudos to you for finding that channel of access and building a relationship with willpower in yourself and getting to know that aspect called will. I am wanting to do that more and acknowledge how will has always been there in the background, and I just haven't given him a voice until recently. And so I'm looking forward to the next chapters with me exploring will and getting to know that other sibling, because it does feel like these three are the siblings of whatever source is. That's the way I'm just portraying these characters. So, yeah, in a roundabout way, of course, as always, I'm just constantly rambling in fear and justification, because all of this is unknown. All of this is, wise. And I'm sounding so full of myself and bonkers and whatever, and there's so many fearful restrictions there. And I just keep saying, keep thinking to myself, that's one of the biggest walls to climb over to get on the other side of an ego mind state. And whether I enact, get empowered by will, whether I form a relationship with will in order to facilitate that push, that urge, that decision to do it as well, and to just go beyond, take that leap of faith, keep going. I need that encouragement. I need that relationship with myself. But because I haven't developed a good self-discipline way of life, I think I'm seeking this too. I'm seeking red. I'm seeking that power within me to enact what I feel is right. And everything in my being is saying this is right. But the place where it's not is on the outskirts of ego. So, yeah. I want my own place.